So good morning and good evening. Welcome to the Sri Aurobindo and Mother Study Circle, where we are taking a book study of the compilation called Looking from Within by Dr. S Dalal. So we'll continue with our discussion last time. Does anybody remember what we were talking about? Yeah, so we were talking about aspiration. And we had read a few things between aspiration, desire, the differences. And I thought we'll just continue with that. So there's a few things that when I was looking for more definitions of aspiration so that we can better understand it because it's really important. So there are few things that I had liked that I thought we can read together before we go back to the compilation that we are reading. So I'll just pick and choose some things from here. I think the most common definition that I was finding was this one right here, that aspiration is a turning upward of the inner being with a call, yearning, prayer for the divine, for the truth, for the consciousness, peace, ananda, knowledge, descent of the divine force, or whatever else is the aim of one's endeavor. So it's an upward call, turning upwards of the inner being with a call. Next, I like was that beyond words, above thoughts, the flame of an intense aspiration must always burn steady and bright. So what is exactly meant by sincere aspiration? We had briefly touched upon this last time too. An aspiration which is not mixed with any interested and egoistic calculation. Usually a lot of what we do is very calculative. It's a trade. You give this, you get this. So when it's beyond these calculations, then that is a sincere aspiration. Although we don't need to go into it, but still for clarity, I think we can even read this. If anybody is willing and has the capacity, they can read the difference between mental, vital, and spiritual, even physical, it had given aspiration.
I can read it.
Okay, thank you.
What is the difference between mental aspiration, vital aspiration, and spiritual aspiration? A mental aspiration means that the power aspires to have knowledge, for instance, or else to have the power to express itself well or have clear ideas, a logical reasoning. One may aspire for many things, that all the faculties and capacities of the mind may be developed and placed at the service of the divine. This is a mental aspiration. Or you may have an aspiration in the vital if you have desires or troubles, storms, inner difficulties. You may aspire for peace, to be quite impartial without desire or preference, to be a good, docile instrument without any personal whims, always at the divine's disposal. That is a vital aspiration. Sorry, this is a vital aspiration. You may have a physical aspiration also, that the body may feel the need to acquire a kind of equipoise in which all the parts of the being will be well balanced, and that you may have the power to hold off illness at a distance or overcome it fast when it enters trickily, and that the body may always function normally, harmoniously, in perfect health. That is a physical aspiration. A spiritual aspiration means having an intense need to unite with the divine, to give oneself totally to the divine, not to live outside the divine consciousness, so that the divine may be everything for you in your integral being, and you feel the need of a constant communion with him, of the sense of his presence, of his guidance in all that you do, and of his harmonizing all the movements of the being. That is a spiritual aspiration. Thank you. The mother.
Yes, thank you, Jagan. It appears that whenever there is any movement in any part of my being which wants to rise, higher, which wants to go more, higher than where one is right now, then it would come under aspiration. So I hope that helps. I think Deepa is asking for the link. 1 second.
Ma'am, also, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
In the second paragraph, or you may have an aspiration in the vital if you have desires or troubles, storms, inner difficulties, you may aspire for peace, to be quite impartial without desire or preference. So, you know, um, isn't vital the being that is always running behind desires? So,
Yes.
so the vital is aspiring to not be vital. Is that what it's saying?
Okay, let's take it up. Or you may have an aspiration in the vital. So, firstly, see, we do realize, right? Sometimes we do get tired of our desires, right? The inner storms, the difficulties. So, it
Yes.
says that we may have, it's a possibility that we may have an aspiration in the vital. If you have desires or troubles, storms, inner difficulties, you may aspire for peace. So, whenever I'm aspiring for peace, that is going against my vital, right? To be impartial, vital always wants, comparisons. So, without desires or preferences. So, vital is that energy which gives rise to desires, but now it's aspiring that it should be without desires or preferences, to be a good, docile instrument without any personal whims, always at the divine's disposal. So, this is the vital aspiration.
Um, Thank you for clearing that. One last question.
Yeah, Jagan, your voice is very coming very bleak.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, now it's perfect. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Um, so the second question is, the second and the last question is that a spiritual aspiration means having an intense need to unite with the divine. So, ma'am, um, so far I believe that this this uh, this uh, this need be to unite with the divine, it happens by itself. It's not something I can attain by doing a certain practice or something. Matlab, what I'm trying to say is, sometimes I really want to unite with the divine more than other times. And I don't know what kind of, what is that triggering point in me that sometimes tells me that, don't worry about your own desires. It is not bothered by if I'm being accepted, my ideas are being accepted or something. It will just say that, these things don't matter. Now all you need to do is just become one with the divine. And then other days it's like why am I not being given attention? Why am I not getting this, not getting that? And why am I even following the divine? Why am I doing this? So the question is that, will there ever come a point in sadhaks or in my life where this happens automatically, that I'm like kind of, "Ki chalo, I'm not much into this vital or the physical, this game that they play. I just want the divine day in and day out." And or is there a practice that I should do? Because right now I am doing a practice of trying to understand if I really need to be here, if I really need to be in a circle, or if I really need. I'm asking myself questions that why do you need approval when you're doing something for someone? Why do you need approval from them when you know that you're doing it for the sake of doing it? And I'm having all these question and answers within me. So, will that day ever come, man? Because I'm asking this out of lot of, I don't know. I really don't have a word to express, but I really want to be in that state. That's all. Thank
Yeah, Jagan, so you answered your own question in the end by your last sentence, right?
you. Yeah, but I said I really want to be in that state, but then, ma'am, this is like, see, ma'am, if I'm telling you I really want to be in that state. But then I'm also telling you that, some days I'm more into this divide, some days I'm not. Then who
But
is
as long
lying and
as
who is
that
being true?
want is, how we want things, and slowly they start taking more and more and more and more, stability in us, right? Like it starts with a smaller want here and there. And
Mm,
it's like if somebody says, will I be able to ride a bicycle? And the answer is, do you want to ride a bicycle? Then who can stop you, right? So similarly,
mm,
anything that we want, right? It says that ask and it shall be given. But we don't ask, we get distracted. So as the distractions decrease, and I read something, I wasn't sure I'll share it, but I think that directly answers what you're saying. I mean, at least I think so. So we can read that and let's see what if we get some more answers. So if anybody wants to read, if they can please read this one, desires versus aspiration. Just let me check that. Is this the one? Just one second, maybe it was here. Yeah, I think this was probably this one. So if, yeah, we can read this first, and if it's not this, we read that one, but I think this was it. Yeah.
Shall I read it, ma'am?
Yeah, please, thank you.
Sri Aurobindo says here, the aspiration and tapasya needed are too constant. Yes, one cannot do the yoga if one does not take it seriously. For one must be very serious to have a constant aspiration and do tapasya. If one is serious for 5 minutes, one has an aspiration, and for 10 hours, one hasn't. For one day, there is a great urge, and for a month, nothing, and so on. Well, one can't do yoga in these conditions. It must be a continuous, constant thing which does not flag. If one forgets or slackens, one cannot do yoga.
So, this is good for us because we know now, right? Like how when one is forgetting, one knows and one can now one can aspire to have a constant aspiration. How's that, right? We are so intelligent,
Yeah,
so we
you
can be
know,
intelligent about this too.
you know, aside from the intelligence part, I was also discussing about how um, what was that, ma'am? Will and the thought, na? Thought
Hmm.
and will, right? So, how to align my thoughts with my will?
Hmm.
Because My thoughts tell me that I deeply want to connect with the divine, and my will is again kind of going back and forth, like it says in that sentence that, if it's kind of slackening, then it's not really yoga.
Yeah.
So aligning my will with my thought, maybe that's the first step to do to begin with. Because uh, I will be, ma'am, I'm not even lying to myself. I really want to connect. But then again, I'm asking this question that why am I then getting distracted? My aspiration is sincere, but then why is my will not connecting to it? Why am I going into these desires? One part of me tells me that because you don't see this as tangibly as holding, as driving your car. Because um, when I like give you an example, when I got my this car, right, my car that I drive, the loan, I was the student and then I got my work permit. So the bank, the what do you call the um, dealership guy, he said that, give me 1 week of time and I'll let you know if your loan is approved for this car. And that entire week, I was dreaming about this car day in and day out. It was never like, okay, आज मुझे गाड़ी चाहिए, कल नहीं चाहिए, साइकिल बस में ही जाऊंगा. ऐसे नहीं था. हर दिन था कि गाड़ी चाहिए, गाड़ी चाहिए, गाड़ी चाहिए. So constant aspiration. तो जो वो इतना tangible लग रहा था वो मुझे. तो how does one find divine just as tangibly, man? Because it it is I don't know why I'm saying this, but it is kind of frustrating at times that it's कि यार मतलब uh, कि अगेन एस्पिरेशन कम हो रहा है अगेन एक दिन माँ का चैंटिंग मजा आता है, दूसरे दिन माँ का चैंटिंग लगता है एक गाना है बस ऐसे ही सुन रहा हूँ, उसमें कोई कनेक्शन नहीं मिलता. तो फिर तो ये पूरी लाइफ तो यही हो जाएगी ना कि बैक एंड फोर्थ एंड स्लैकनिंग एंड नॉट इवन डूइंग योगा.
The week that you spoke about, in which you were waiting to hear whether the loan would be approved, and you really wanted it to be approved, right? Because you felt a very strong need or want for it, right?
Yes.
So, agar obviously, if our desire for God or aspiration for God is not constant, दैट मीन्स अभी जिंदगी ठीक चल रही है ना. मतलब देर आर लिटिल लिटिल इश्यूज, दे कम अप, आई डील विद देम, समथिंग बिग हैपेंस, देन आई रिमेंबर माँ और the divine, and then life again goes back on track and I'm happy and ma's chanting sounds like a song. That's very honest. We all do that. But there would be a time, when uske bina hoga nahi. So right now, how we say the vessel is being prepared, the more one feels the need, the more one feels कि कर क्या रहा हूं मैं, right? But वो कर के होता है. That one feels कि no, there is a time when it's like I cannot breathe in the life that I am living. So one can constantly, जब भी one can remember, I can aspire. And this is why you see so many masters and mystics, they have prayed for dukh. So many Sufi saints, they say that give me pain, because only in pain I remember you always. So imagine a Sufi saint is singing, is writing a poetry that kindly give me pain only, because when I'm happy, I forget you. And who am I, right?
Yes. You know, living in the regular world, going to regular office, meeting regular people, doing conventional things, life is just, I don't know, life is comfortable.
Yeah,
For Sufi saints, it's, I think even having pain is also a luxury
could
to
be.
find
Yeah,
pain also.
yeah. So till I have comfort, I will not get, you know, what I aspire for, because comfort feels like, अरे इससे बड़ी चीज क्या हो सकती है? So you know how it
Yes.
says that when I move beyond enjoyings, then I shall have bliss. Desire was the helper, desire is the bar, right? कि अभी तक कितनी सारी चीजें हैं that I enjoy, right? इसमें fun है, उसमें fun है. So Sri Aurobindo says that when I move, and there will be a stage for sure, when I move beyond enjoyings,
Hmm.
then I shall have bliss. और जब तक enjoyment है, bliss ना चाहिए ना कोई देगा. But this honesty, this sincerity, कि this is what I am doing and this is what I want to do. The more I see it, the more I can aspire to bridge the gap.
Yeah. 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 Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You know, even the second one, does anybody have any comments or anything on what we were discussing before we move ahead? No. See here, this one also is nice, that one has only to aspire sincerely. You say sometimes we wonder, right? What do I do? Karu kya? So in Sri Aurobindo's thing, it was a bit more tedious, you know, rejection, aspiration, surrender. And then finally, when mother took the forefront, it was like, just remember the mother. So here it says one has only to aspire sincerely and keep oneself as open as possible to the mother's force. We can read it as divine's force, right? For whoever we have inclination towards. So then whatever difficulty comes, they will be overcome. It may take some time, but the result is sure. So this is Sri Aurobindo saying this in the Letters of Yoga. Even this one, we can simply, by a sincere aspiration, open a sealed door in us and find that something which will change the whole significance of life, reply to all our questions, solve all our problems, and lead us to the perfection we aspire for without knowing it, to that reality which alone can satisfy us and give us lasting joy, equilibrium, strength, and life. So I think these are countless. I can share this link and we can take a look at our in our own times. Maybe we can go back to the book now. Maybe it might be nice. I have not read this one. These 5 lines from Savitri, if anybody wants to read, they might be beautiful before we go back.
Awake to his hidden possibility, awake to all that slept within his heart, and all that nature meant when earth was formed, and the Spirit made this ignorant world his home. He shall aspire to truth and God and bliss. Sri Aurobindo Savitri.
Yeah, thank you. You know, there comes a time when we awaken to our hidden possibilities. We become awake to all that is sleeping within our hearts, in our souls, and all that nature meant when earth was formed. You know how there was something intended, you know how it's in the story of creation. I don't know how many of us are aware of it. It is said that how all the positive things, truth and bliss and consciousness, how they were sent, but how they turned against, while they were coming to earth. So all that nature meant when earth was formed, and the spirit made this ignorant world his home. Okay, how ignorance also was one of the upturning, but the spirit still made this ignorant world his home. And why did it agree to make this ignorant world his home? Because he shall aspire, because it knew that if it aspires to truth and God and bliss, the turning that had happened, all the dualities that had happened, truth into falsehood, consciousness into ignorance, false, this light into darkness, it knew that if it will aspire, it will get the truth, get the God, get the bliss. So with this certainty, one can, feel more, I don't know, some solace, some hope to aspire more and more that ask and it shall be given. Yeah. So we are going back to our book, looking from within. So according to me, this is what we had. I think, yeah, these two we had done. And this is what I remember, or maybe it's an overlap we'll see that we can take up today. So if anybody is willing, they can read the first passage. Thank you.
Should I, if nobody else?
Yes, please. Thank you.
When someone is destined for the path, all circumstances through all the deviations of mind and life help in one way or another to lead him to it. It is his own psychic being within him and divine power above that use to that end the vicissitudes both of mind and outward circumstance. Sri Aurobindo.
Yeah, thank you. So I think we have discussed this quite a few times, right? That when one is wanting something, it's like the whole universe is conspiring for it to materialize for him. And especially on this path, it says that when someone is destined for the path, its destiny is to walk on this path. All circumstances, through all the deviations of mind and life, help in one way or another to lead him to it. So even though to my eyes it might feel that this is not going well, or this is what success means, or this is what devotion means, or this is what aspiration means, even if I am deviating seemingly superficially, but that too I don't know what muscle I am building. So once one is on the path with as much sincerity and honesty that one can give to it, aspiring for more honesty and sincerity, and knowing that every step is a step in the right direction, knowing that I am being taken care of and everything is taking me there. So it is his own psychic being within him and divine power above that use to that end the vicissitudes both of mind and outward circumstances. That it might seem that you're getting, pain and suffering from outside. It might seem, why is God so cruel? Why are things what I want not happening? But I have no clue that how what is happening is also taking me towards that only. Yeah, anything on this? Otherwise,
Like when I was listening to Jagan say about things, and at a certain stage of my life, I felt like I as well felt what he was going through. Maybe a more younger me. Um, and now at this stage, I think when you have all the comfort itself starts giving you some discomfort. If I don't know if that makes sense. Uh, there's no challenge in this, right? Everything is going hunky dory. Um, but there's this inner voice that's saying that there should be something beyond. Um, and having come to this stage, for me now, it is easier to identify what is really not required in my life. Um, at least I'm able to identify the silliness of certain things that we engage in. I know my distractions. I know the pointless meanderings of our lives. Um, I know I need to eliminate these. I've eliminated some, but I've not eliminated all. Um, there's courage to be displayed in some to eliminate. Um, you need some bravery to cross over. And I'm just, but at least I'm happy that the awareness has built. Um, and I don't mind taking the baby steps forward. Um, I feel like I lack the courage to take the big steps, or maybe the time has not come. But I'll be patient, is what I feel.
Yeah, that sounded very honest and very powerful. And I very strongly resonate when you said that you start getting annoyed with the comforts, the lack of movements, the lack of progress. And that's a very good sign because, then one has the capacity to do something, to move, to aspire, to invite more in one's life. And, baby steps are what it is. We might have images and impressions. And there's this beautiful quote from Aurobindo. I would be paraphrasing, but it's really nice. I've used it often that, when you call, trust that he listens. And if the answer takes long in coming, trust that he knows, the right time and he loves. And while you're waiting, clear off the stones and the hurdles, the trees kind of in the forest, so that when the answer comes, when he comes, he doesn't have to trip over obstacles, right? Like just preparing myself while aspiring is very important so that, stilling my being, small practices that I do in my everyday prepare me for the descent when it will happen. So these baby steps are all there is that I can do right now, and I must do those as much as possible. And that's great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, we can take the next paragraph or passage. So if anybody has the capacity, they can read. Otherwise, I can read this one. Starting from if you are. Yeah, I can read. If you are in a state of conscious aspiration and very sincere, well, everything around you will be arranged in order to help in your aspiration, whether directly or indirectly. That is either to make you progress, put you in touch with something new, or to eliminate from your nature something that has to disappear. this is something quite remarkable. If you are truly in a state of intensity of aspiration, there is not a circumstance which does not come to help you to realize this aspiration. Everything comes, everything, as though there were a perfect and absolute consciousness organizing around you all things, and you yourself, in your outer ignorance, may not recognize it and may protest at first against the circumstances as they show themselves, may complain, may try to change them. But after a while, when you have become wiser and there is a certain distance between you and the event, well, you will realize that it was just what you needed to do to make the necessary progress. And you know it is a will, a supreme goodwill which arranges all things around you. And even when you complain and protest instead of accepting, it is exactly at such moments that it acts most effectively. So this was quite beautiful, and a bit, a thing was repeated from above, but that's what they're trying to just tell us, that if one is in a state of conscious aspiration and very sincere, everything around us will be arranged. And it's pretty amazing that this word everything, it's never most of the things, it's everything around you will be arranged in order to help in your aspiration, whether directly or indirectly. That is either to make you progress, put you in touch with something new, or to eliminate from your nature something that has to disappear. So it is something definitely quite remarkable, right? When it says that everything is arranged in a way to help you progress, take up something new, give up something. So if you're truly in a state of intensity of aspiration, there is not a circumstance, not even a single circumstance which does not come to help you to realize this aspiration. Everything comes, everything, as though they were a perfect and absolute consciousness organizing around you all things. This very beautifully reminds me, and I'm sure I would have shared this before, that I have a friend who had gone through a lot of challenges in the worldly things, like, kind of abusive husband and lot of kid issues, and I mean, lot of things which are beyond our imagination, that that could happen, and they happened to her. And things, instead of getting simpler with time, although she moved out, she chose a life for herself, and yet somehow the things kept getting more and more and more and more complicated and twisty and turny. Lot of court cases in different countries, this, that. And one day, while she was just telling what has happened and what further complication has come, she sat down and very sincerely and with a lot of gratitude, she told me that, I now can see that somebody up there loves me so much that it would not let go till I learn, till I find a way out of this, till I learn to be at peace with all this. And very shortly after that, she just gave in to all her, gave up all the demands. She closed all the cases and she said, do whatever you have to the other person. I'm fine. I don't need anything. And within a few months, it was as if a miracle had happened. And the same person who had been, harassing her and whatnot, suddenly was fine and things became good after years and years and years of struggling. The sentence that she said, irrespective of the results, how when she said that there's somebody up there who loves me so much that they would not give up till I learn. When you are in this place where it's hurting and you are being pulled in all the different directions and you're crying and stumbling and hurting, for you then to see that this is for your good, I think is nothing short of a miracle. And a lot of us get this glimpse. So, more things to be grateful for. Yeah, Vasu, would you want to unmute and share your comment with us, or you don't have the capacity to unmute today? You can. That's fine too.
I always have a lot of capacity.
No, sometimes
But
you are in a rush, or how like there's a lot of sound or noise. So that's what I mean. That's good to
I,
know.
I operate on very high energy, but I have to restrain myself so I can be respectful of giving other people a chance to speak and share their thoughts as well.
Okay.
But yes, I think just the para that you read, and Jagan had shared his challenges and his struggles. So I think that paragraph perfectly answered, that when you are very genuinely aspiring for something, then pretty much the universe works with you and everything falls into place. And also, very interestingly, just what you mentioned about one of your friends, um, a lot of it resonates actually with me for my personal situation as well, is that sometimes there's, you're being pulled in every direction and there just seems to be one obstacle after another. And you feel like nothing's just going your way and everything seems such a drag. And then when you just come to peace and you let go, you just decide, you know what, I'm just going to let this go. And then actually, it's funny, what you chase runs away from you. And when you stop chasing it, it comes to you. I mean, just one of those, strange laws of nature. So yeah, I can totally relate to that. It just happened very recently with me as well. There's someone personally in my life who's being extremely nasty with me. And I just decided that I do not want to engage and I stepped back. And then I don't know what happened. The universe just put everything together and that person apologized to me. So, and that was a little untypical of that person to do that. So, yes, so what you just mentioned is pretty remarkable. It's so credible and I can just totally relate.
Yes, thank you for sharing. And you're right, it's actually a law. I don't know why it's not more known. But if you genuinely step back, and not just because, that grapes are sour, the things that you are chasing, which have been running from you, it's like somebody bought them to you in a platter. And always, always, always it happens. Good to acknowledge that. And yeah. So just taking this further, that reading this again, if you're truly in a state of intensity of aspiration, there is not a circumstance which does not come to help you to realize this aspiration. Everything comes, everything as though they were a perfect and absolute consciousness organizing around you all things, and you yourself in your outer ignorance may not recognize it and may protest at first against the circumstances as they show themselves, may complain, may try to change them. But after a while, when you have become wiser and there's a certain distance between you and the event, I think both these things, and of course, grace is really important. This distance also is so important. You will realize that it was just what you needed, to make the necessary progress. That, if that hindrance, that challenge, that pain, that suffering was not there, you would not have been able to, achieve that state. And, the beauty is that that challenge, that pain is time bound, but the skill that you get, the detachment, the transcendence that happens to you is mostly permanent. So it's like, the bargain is beautiful. You hardly pay anything and you get a lot. One might not feel that way, but in the long run, I don't think there would be anybody who would not agree with this. And the interesting thing, and now it is a will, a supreme goodwill which arranges all things around you. And even when you complain and protest, this was interesting. When you complain and protest, instead of accepting, it is exactly at such moments that it acts most effectively. This supreme goodwill, this will, that when you're like screaming and shouting and protesting against it, something in you shifts. When you see, there's a vyarthata of that thing, of that, the how small you are seeing things and how big they are, something changes. And obviously it would depend on the different situations. It would materialize in a different way. Yeah. If there's anything, we can take it up. Otherwise, we can move forward. It's quite simple and good to know. Okay, so if nothing, maybe we can take up this one. If anybody is willing, they can read. Else I will read.
I can read. Oh, sorry. Deepa, go ahead.
No, I thought nobody else is reading, that's why. Please.
If you say to the divine with conviction, I want only you, the divine will arrange all the circumstances in such a way as to compel you to be sincere. Something in the being, I want only you, the aspiration, and then one wants 100 odd things all the time. Isn't that so? At times, something comes just usually to disturb everything. It stands in the way and prevents you from realizing your aspiration. Well, the divine will come without showing himself, without your seeing him, without your having any inkling of it. And he will arrange all the circumstances in such a way that everything that prevents you from belonging solely to the divine will be removed from your path inevitably. Then when all is removed, you begin to howl and complain. But later, if you're sincere and look at yourself straight in the eye, you have said to the Lord, you have said, I want only you. He will remain close to you. All the rest will go away. This is indeed a higher grace. Only you must say this with conviction. I don't even mean that you must say it integrally, because if one says it integrally, the work is done. What is necessary is that one part of the being, indeed the central will, says it with conviction. I want only you. Even once, and it suffices. All that takes more or less long. Sometimes it stretches over years, but one reaches the goal.
Yes, thank you, Vasu. So any reflections or comments are welcome before we take it up. Very simple, very self-explanatory. So if you say to the divine with conviction, I want only you. I think it's a long road ahead. Firstly, it's like, I want this, 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 this. Can you please give it to me? Then we can say, okay, I want this, 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 and I want you to reach this stage that I want only you. In itself, it's such a blessing. So if you say to the divine with conviction, I want only you, the divine will arrange all the circumstances in such a way as to compel you to be sincere. So, again, Jagan, when you were talking about sincerity and, lacking the calling constantly. So if I say this with sincerity, all the circumstances will be arranged such as they will compel you to be sincere. So it would not be a choice anymore. So something in the being, I want only you, the aspiration, and then one wants 100 odd things all the time. Isn't that so? At times, something comes just usually to disturb everything. It stands in the way and prevents you from realizing your aspiration. Well, the divine will come without showing himself, without you seeing him, without your having any inkling of it. And he will arrange all the circumstances in such a way that everything that prevents you from belonging solely to the divine will be removed from your path inevitably. In one of the sessions, I think last to last week, Nandini was sharing a story which I'd also read in one of the books, I don't remember where there was this sadhak who very sincerely wanted to come to the ashram and live there, but his father was very strongly against it. So he wrote to Sri Aurobindo and said, I don't know what to do. I so badly wants to come, but my father is not agreeing. And very soon, his father became so ill that he was about to die. And suddenly the sadhak realized that, oh my God, is it I who have done it? So he wrote again to Sri Aurobindo that, no, this is not what I asked. You can please make him well, I'll come. So he sent that letter, and soon the father became okay. And then the father again stopped him from coming. So I don't know what that story means, but I usually have images about everything, right? That if I'm wanting this is how I want this to happen, this is how it should look like. But if one has that centered, that focus totally, how it says, Arjun के लिए we say, right? कि focus हो तो Arjun जैसा कि somebody asked तुझे क्या दिख रहा है, right? In the Swayamvar when he won Draupadi, there was this thing, I don't know if we know it, कि द्रौपदी के स्वयंवर में there was this thing that was moving which had fishes on them, like fish carvings or something, and they were supposed to hit the fish to win. So people asked, what are you seeing? Somebody said this fish, red fish, blue fish. And Arjun's answer was, I see the eye of the fish. That's all I see. No other thing I'm able to see. No colors, no shapes, just the eye that I have to hit. Yeah, so it's.
But you'd also say that it's also timing, right? I think sometimes there are very life-defining moments or circumstances in our life. Maybe something very catastrophic or very devastating that has to happen, which might make us contemplative or reflective. And then we start asking all those deep questions about life and what's our purpose, why we here. For the most part, when something like that happens, most people turn inward and then they lean in towards maybe spirituality. Also, would you say that there's also a time, when something has to happen, everything in its time and place, that you also might aspire for something. Maybe you've been trying for a long time and at that time things were not just right or were not very conducive. So about this sadhak that you just mentioned, that story, one can say that maybe it was the dad who stopped, or it could be something else. I think when it's meant to be, things will fall in place, and that's what we read in the previous the paragraph, that everything then aligns, right? And everything then makes the path very easy for you, because maybe that's where you're meant to be. Maybe that's your purpose. So like when Deepa was saying that, you know, when she was younger, it was something different. And now that she has all the comfort, she still feels there's something beyond that she's seeking. So I think for everybody at different stage of their lives, maybe age defining or otherwise, maybe then we are drawn towards what is really meant for us, and then everything aligns. Would you like to speak to that?
I would not want to speak much, but I want to share something that I coincidentally read today, which I didn't read the full article, but there's something that struck the note that just let's see. So, in conclusion, I should like to draw your attention to one point, for it very frequently obstructs true union. It is a great error to suppose that the divine will is always acting openly in the world. All that happens is not in fact divine. The supreme will is distorted in the manifestation owing to the combination of lower forces which translate it. I mean, it might sound very opposite of what we have been reading, and yet I feel such windows are important for us because we otherwise start doubting. So taking it forward, they are the mediums which falsifies its impetus and gives it an undivine result. If all that happened were indeed the flawless translation of it, how could you account for the distortions of the world? And we do know there are so many distortions. Not that the divine will could not have caused a cosmic ignorance. It is omnipotent and all possibilities are inherent in it. It can work out anything of which it sees the secret necessity in its original vision. And the first cause of the world is, of course, the divine, though we must take care not to adjust this fact mentally according to our petty ethical values. I think it's just going somewhere else. This one. Yeah, maybe we can just. But once the condition of the cosmos were laid down and the involution into nescience accepted as the basis of progressive manifestation of the divine, out of all that seemed its very opposite, there took place a sort of division between the higher and the lower. The history of the world became a battle between the true and the false, in which the details are not all direct representations of the divine's progressive action, but rather distortions of its owing to the mass of resistance offered by the inferior nature. So if, there were no resistance that they're talking about, there would be nothing whatever to conquer in the world, for the world would be harmonious, a constant passage from one perfection to another instead of conflict. I think we would not go on much longer, but in a sense, how it's like there's so much happening, and I personally know people who just get very passive. सब कुछ चल ही तो रहा है, सब कुछ ठीक ही तो हो रहा है, और अगर उसकी मर्जी होगी, if he so wills, of course I'll be more sincere. If he so wills, of course I'll be more honest. But because I am not that honest or sincere, so it must be him that wants me to be that way. So I think it's I digressed a little from what Vasu you had mentioned. I apologize. I went into a different tangent. But just it, kind of strengthens that my will has to be there, my aspiration has to be there. Otherwise, there are a lot of things which are mixed, which stop me from going where they are. But if I have, a vision, a aim, an aspiration, it helps me stay on the path and I would reach there faster. Just I don't know, it's been a long time that I have shared this, but how when we see the mother had drawn a picture of how the path of, a yogi. I just pull this. See this picture? You see this one on the left side. I'm sorry. Is it coming? The left side, the lower corner. So this is what mother had drawn, that this is, this base here. The circle is where you are, the square is, where you have to reach. And this is how an ordinary person reaches, right? Right and then left and then right and then left and creating the whole loop. And this is how a person following a discipline, following integral yoga, she was mentioning, they would reach like this straight line. The divisions, the diversions, the dispersions, the mixtures don't need to happen. But if they happen, then also we are reaching there only. It's just taking us longer. So obviously the universe is conspiring, but if I only conspire against myself and keep following down the same slopes, keep running after the same mountains, keep swimming in the same waters, what can the universe do? So, I'm totally confused as to what you had asked me and what I have answered so far.
I think, yeah, we digressed a bit, but it is interesting because I think when you first started reading and it said that not everything is a manifestation, we kind of attribute too much meaning to things, for example. And just before that, I was thinking I will give such an example, but it was contrary to what you read out. So what I was going to talk about is the fact that, around this time when the vacations come, and this is every year's chakkar with me. Every time the same loop because nobody in my house wants to travel and I want to travel. So it's all about convincing everybody, let's go on a family trip. And there's so much of push and pull, and somebody is not interested in a nature picturesque trip. Somebody else only wants to do a resort thing. And and I don't know why I do it. Like nobody's interested, but I'm just pushing for a family trip. And it's strange, but again, now that time of the year is coming again, I'm already stressing because I know what happens every time with this whole planning and trip and everything. And somehow we reached a common point. We made some bookings and everything. And just all of a sudden, such a freakish accident happened for my son. And, such a injury happens only to a 55-year-old, I've heard, and it happened to him. And he's bedridden, and I just went around canceling all my bookings. The point that I made was there is so much unrest in me when this vacation period comes. Because I know what's coming. Like now I have to convince everybody, I have to manage it, we have to reach a common point, we have to make the bookings. And somehow the whole point of enjoyment is lost in this process. And we are like, everybody's fighting and arguing and unhappy. And I wonder, really, are we doing this for something good, or like, what kind of a compulsion is this? And to off late, obviously I'm getting more clarity, and I know somehow this vacation is a distraction, and I shouldn't be engaging in the same patterns of it's not solving anything, it is not of use, it is useless, like the way it's going around. um and I'm not able to break that pattern, I was thinking. And while I was still making the bookings, it was not a vacation I wanted the way I wanted it, but it was just something that we kind of all of us compromised. And while I was making the bookings, I was thinking that this is unnecessary. This is not required. And I just realized what patterns I'm again and again repeating every year. And then suddenly this happened, this incident with my son. And because he's bedridden, I mean, it was a no-brainer for me. Uh, I didn't feel sad canceling the bookings, honestly. Um, I didn't I didn't feel like, oh my God, what the hell, my vacation is gone for a toss. It just gave me clarity that sometimes we complicate our lives with so many unnecessary stuff. And even though I knew that this was unnecessary, I still go through the routine because this is what is expected to be done when a holiday comes or a vacation comes. So I feel like we cloud our lives with a lot of nonsense. And I don't know whether the divine aligned it or I'm just thinking that this is a manifestation. But there was some clarity here. It was not a big deal, not going on a vacation, canceling the bookings, just making my life more simpler, having more time to reflect, to read, to think about the divine. Doesn't mean I'll not go on a vacation.
Yeah, good you
But yeah.
clarified that. There's one thing among other things that you said. You said that is what is expected of me, right? That's why I would say plan, 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 go, 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 and then come, come, come. Who do you think expects that?
It's odd, like you think, oh, you're the mother. The father's not keen to take anybody anywhere. So you have to play the role of getting the family together. And you think like you're the binding force, who keeps the family together. So it's an unrealistic, unnecessary expectation that I keep from myself that, this is something I do for my children. But really, do they want it? I don't think they're all grown up and like maybe hanging out with parents is not like the ideal vacations for them. But I'm thinking that, oh, these are memories I'm building for later, and it's neither a vacation plan that is for me that I would have liked to do because I'm compromising based on their interests. And it's definitely not their idea of a vacation. I think their idea of a vacation would have been in front of TV and with chips and chocolates or whatever. Um, but what I realized, the whole point of this discussion is that I think we do complicate our lives with unnecessary uh, pressures. And when actually life strikes you, you realize that there are more important things to pursue.
Yeah.
And these are just stupid distractions in our lives we have built around. I think this is just so that this is our lower impulses that kind of hold on to us losing sight of what is important. And even though I knew I was going into that pattern, I had awareness of this time. Unlike before, I felt, no, this is what I need to do earlier. Now I knew that this was a wrong pattern. And it's just strange that when I knew it happened like this.
Yeah. And imagine the scenario that say you so badly want to organize this vacation and somebody tells you, no, we can't go. And you would lash out that, come on, right? Like it's expected that we go. And if somebody says, and who's expecting? And the answer would be me. But I don't realize that, right? This is my image, my expectation. It's hard to see reality, like you were saying, that, you could see it's not their idea, it's not your idea. We're all reaching a compromise. They are going for you. You say you're going for them. It's like exactly what you said, how the spider, in Upanishads, there is this example, I don't know in which one, in which it's like, my life is like a spider first takes out his web from himself, right? And creates that whole web inside around him. And then he takes away, in all the web that he has created. So what is happening now is one is now winding up the webs that we have created around ourselves. I mean, that's so beautiful that we are getting a chance to do that. and not die as a spider stuck in the web. So that is most important. Whatever we had to do for it, it's secondary. But yeah. Anything that creates feverishness, it's like, say, if I say, I mean, and these could be just words that, I am peace, I am joy, I am love, I am, everything. So if I'm here, if I'm there, that's fine. It's not that being somewhere else would would add something to me. And yet I want it, just because it's fun, but it's not that without it, I am losing anything or I'll be less. Once we achieve that, that stability, that love, that certitude in where I am, everywhere I go is a vacation, and vacations have more meaning because then they are not diluted with those expectations, that images. And one would see the difference in the quality and the fun and the love and the happiness that one will be able to receive when all these images are not there. So thank you for sharing stories of our lives.
And what is funny is if somebody else had told me in the house that we are not going for the vacation, cancel the bookings, it would have been such a big fuss. And today I did it on my own, right? So I think life shows us our own potential
Yeah.
at times. Like I could not break the pattern, but life made me cancel the bookings. So it's just eye-opening for me.
Yeah. Good. Good that the eyes are open. We need more people with open eyes in the world. Yeah. Just because I don't want it to leave any negative thing, and we read just a little bit of it. So just reading just a few more lines so that it kind of connects better. So here it says that the divine will actually suffers distortion the moment it touches the hostile forces in the ignorance. Ignorance changes things for us. Hence, we must never slacken our effort to change the world and bring about a different order. So these are the lines that I had actually really resonate. We must be vigilant to cooperate with the divine and not placidly think that whatever happens is always the best. All depends upon the personal attitude. If in the presence of circumstances that are on the point of occurring, you take the highest possible attitude, that is to say, if you put your consciousness in contact with the highest consciousness within your reach, the highest version of you, you can be absolutely certain that in such a case, what happens is the best that can happen to you. So this was just a thing about not saying that, it's all happening for the good and I have no role and I just start smiling and keep sitting. I have to stand up against the wrong. I have to reach out for the right, and I'll be guided with my aspiration and aims. That is a certainty. But passivity, it is not, but it's often taken to be. So one has to be again and again reminded of that.
It's also interesting that just going back to earlier what we were sharing is that when we talked about passivity and not doing anything, but it's also making peace, right? Like sometimes you wish, like what I was mentioning earlier, that you aspire or you crave for something, but then you have to make peace at a certain point when it's not happening, right? You have to let go, you have to pick your battles. And so in that circumstance, it wouldn't be passive, but you tried your best. And then again, like in the Gita, it says, right, you put in your efforts, but the outcome is not in your control. So Like, for instance, here in Deepa's instance, she did everything for the holiday and the planning and everything. But, the freak accident just put a halt to those plans. Now, to me, I mean, you would call it superstitious or what. Like, personally, I have this feeling always that if there's something that very passionately I'm trying to do, and I become helpless because something comes in the way that plan never moves forward. In hindsight 2020, it looks to me always that there was something good. I sometimes think that I don't know if I'd gone, something terrible could have happened. Like, I just feel that way. And I think that way, that it was beyond my control. I tried everything. I planned the itinerary and everything was booked, but it didn't happen. So at that point, I have to make peace and let go. And not maybe just fight against it. However, if it is something, and this is something I think I always struggle with, is when it comes to justice or advocacy and things like this, then I'm still more persistent. I wouldn't just give up. I would be then more persistent. Maybe the outcome will not be what I desire, but at least I know that I fought a good fight. I did everything that I could. So I think it could be a little bit subjective and also circumstantial as to when we let go and when we pick that battle and we keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you said, you did everything you could and things are not happening, and that is now passive, that's not passive, right? You've done. So that's as active as it can be. And then for it, wherever direction it takes, that's not passive, that's surrender then, that yes, I did it. Like again, you mentioned Gita and how he was told that, Arjun, tum karm kar, fal ki chinta mat kar, right? But we feel, okay, this is what I was working towards and this didn't happen. But I really don't know what I was working towards, what I'm working towards, and what is happening, how it's, going towards it or taking me away. Yeah. So yeah, that's not passive. We'll wind up now. So we took this paragraph and we read it till without you seeing him, without him showing himself, without you having any inkling of it, and he will arrange all the circumstances in such a way that everything that prevents you from belonging solely to the divine will be removed from your path inevitably. So we had stopped there, so we can just quickly take this. Then when all is removed, you begin to howl and complain. But later, if you are sincere and look at yourself straight in the eye, you have said to the Lord, you have said, I want only you. He will remain close to you. All the rest will go away. This is indeed a higher grace. Only you must say this with conviction. I don't even mean that you must say it integrally, because if one says it integrally, the work is done. Integrally means, with everything, all parts of you holistically. So what is necessary is that one part of the being, indeed the central will, says it with conviction, I want only you, even once, and it suffices. All that takes more or less long, sometimes it stretches over years, but one reaches the goal. So there's no if and but about it. We just don't know when. So I didn't realize, but this was part of the same passage. So this is ending now. So here the person says, but one has all kind of imperfections. Right? So this comment would be coming from Jagan after reading this and listening this to this. So what does mother says? The more the imperfections, the longer it takes, the more the attachment one has, the longer it takes. But in capital letters, the goal is sure. So we don't know when, but we know we will. And if we want it sooner, we can work on ourselves for perfecting ourselves. And if it's not happening, we can aspire for more sincerity and a constant aspiration. So how beautiful it is, right? How to have a constant aspiration? We can aspire to have a constant aspiration, and then that, aspiration would be deeper and more constant. So that is great. So if there are any last comments, we can take. Otherwise, we can end it here. And next time we'll take number 9, the meaning of circumstances. That looks really interesting. Yeah. Today we have completed this passage, which was titled Inner State and Outer Circumstances, and how we were told again and again that everything is taking us towards what we are aspiring for, aiming towards. So there's a comment. Okay. So we will end the session here. So again, thanking Grace and aspiring to have a more constant, more sincere aspiration to reach wherever it is that we may want to reach. And may our aspiration be towards the highest possibility of me as and beyond a human, so that, this aspiration has more, there's more weight in it, more beef in it, as one says. And as Mother said, the goal, that I would reach the goal, that thing is a certainty. So with that certainty, I thank Grace and aspire for more peace and wellness in the lives of all sentient beings. May the unnecessary fights, chatters, objections, accusations now can be put to rest, and may we all move towards more simplicity, joy, and love. Thank you for joining in, and have a good weekend.